morning of my 32nd birthday, I woke up next to a man who whispered "I love you" like it was a lullaby. By midnight, I had sent a photo of him and his mistress, bare skin and tangled sheets, to his mother. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't throw plates or beg for answers. I simply let the truth do what it always does when it finally has room to breathe. Some women write poems. Some women walk away. Me, I pressed send. If you've ever been lied to with a smile, told you were overreacting, or gaslit into silence, grab your coffee. This isn't just a birthday story. It's a reminder. Never underestimate a woman who knows how to wait. And hey, if you enjoy a little poetic justice, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. I promise, it only gets better from here. It was supposed to be a good day. I woke up to birdsong and the smell of coffee. His usual brew, dark and strong, already waiting in the kitchen. He'd even placed a tiny cinnamon blueberry scone on a saucer, the same kind I used to love from the bakery down the block. That detail made me pause. I hadn't mentioned those in years. He lay beside me, blinking awake slowly like a man with no worries in the world. Then he smiled, kissed my bare shoulder, and whispered, "Happy birthday, babe." I smiled back, but something felt off. It wasn't just in my chest, it was in my bones. Something about the way he touched me felt memorized, automatic. There was no tenderness in the fingertips that once used to hesitate on my skin as if they were discovering something sacred. Still, I pushed the thought away. After all, it was my 32nd birthday. I wanted to believe. I wanted to hold on to a version of us that still existed only in memory. It hadn't always been this way. I remember my 27th birthday like it was stitched into my skin. He'd surprised me with a picnic in the park, right where we'd had our first date. He brought wine, flowers, and even wore the same blue button-up shirt from years before. We laughed until our stomachs hurt. He kissed me like I was something rare, something alive. That day, I felt loved. But 5 years of marriage has a way of softening edges and dulling color. You stop noticing when "I love you" becomes routine instead of real. You rationalize the missing kisses, the late nights, the silences that settle between dinner and bedtime. And I did. I rationalized everything. Because that's what you do when you've built a life with someone. You don't want to believe it's cracking. You don't want to believe they might be falling in love with someone else while still calling you home. He always said I was his safe place, that I grounded him, that I made him better. But now I understand. What he really meant was I was stable, predictable, reliable. And men like him, they take those qualities and bury them beneath whatever new fire catches their attention. We'd grown distant over the past year. I felt it like a shift in the air, a cold front that never quite passed. He worked later, laughed less. When he touched me, it was brief and distracted. His eyes never lingered. But I told myself he was tired, stressed, overwhelmed. The signs were all there. The new password on his phone, the extra showers, the vague weekend errands that didn't make sense, but I didn't accuse him. Because he'd already accused me of being paranoid, dramatic, overthinking everything. Gaslighting doesn't always look like screaming. Sometimes it's just a soft sigh and a disappointed shake of the head. "Babe, why would I ever do that to you?" And you believe them, because the alternative is devastation. It was 11:14 a.m. when the text came. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through messages, letting the warmth of the coffee sink into my stomach when it appeared on my lock screen. "Unknown number, happy birthday. Check your husband's photo gallery before you blow out your candles tonight." At first, I thought it was spam. But then my stomach dropped, because I knew. I sat completely still. My body felt heavy. My heartbeat slowed, not panicked, just numb. He was in the shower. I could hear him humming to himself, blissfully unaware. And without even thinking, I walked to his nightstand, picked up his phone, and raised it to his face as he came out of the bathroom. It unlocked. He didn't even notice. He was toweling off his hair, singing along to some soft pop song. I sat down on the edge of the bed. My fingers found the Photos app, straight into the hidden folder, and there she was, in his arms. A hotel bed, neutral beige sheets, her lips on his neck, her body draped across his like a silk scarf. Date stamp, 2 nights ago. He had told me he was at a work dinner. Late meeting, babe, don't wait up. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even look away. I simply stared. At them. At the life he lived without me. At the truth that had been waiting in pixels. He walked by me and kissed my forehead. "Want to go for a walk before dinner?" I nodded. Because I wasn't ready to fight. Not yet. I airdropped the photos to myself, then emailed them to a secure work account. I deleted the recent history and placed the phone right back where I found it. Then I stood up, walked to the mirror, and brushed my hair. I studied myself, not the woman who was just cheated on, not the victim, but the witness. I wasn't falling apart. I wasn't breaking. I was watching, listening, calculating. It was the first time I realized I wasn't helpless. I had power, information. And once a woman has that, you'd be surprised how much silence she can sit in. As I applied my makeup that night, I thought about the woman in the photo. I didn't know her name, but she looked comfortable, like she belonged there, like she believed the same lies I once did. And maybe she did. Maybe he whispered to her the same things he used to whisper to me, how special she was, how different. How I was just safe, just someone he owed loyalty to. Funny how men recycle their excuses like old t-shirts. I wore a red dress, the same one I wore on our honeymoon. When he saw me, he whistled low. "Damn, you're glowing." And I smiled. I let him take my hand. I let him open the car door. I let him talk about wine pairings and how lucky he was to have me. We got to the restaurant, the same one from our 3rd date. The waiter remembered us. Everything was curated, romantic. The music, the candles, the wine. He toasted to me. To my wife, my constant, my heart, my anchor. And I raised my glass. I watched his mouth move, heard the lies, saw the flicker of nerves behind his eyes. I knew he felt something, maybe not guilt, but fear. Maybe not shame, but the growing sense that he was about to lose control. I leaned over, kissed his cheek, and said, "Thank you." And when dessert came, and the candles flickered on a chocolate cake with "Happy Birthday, Love" scrawled in sugar, I closed my eyes, made a wish, and blew them out. I didn't wish for healing. I didn't wish for forgiveness. I wished for clarity, for silence, for enough composure to do what needed to be done. As the smoke curled into the air, I smiled at him, and in my head I whispered, "You just lit your own fuse." The morning after my birthday felt like a movie I didn't audition for. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt right. He was in the kitchen, humming. Again. The same damn tune. Something upbeat, probably the soundtrack to his lie of a life. He wore his husband mask so well, I wondered how many years it took to mold that face. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, staring at the photos I'd secretly sent myself the night before. They were still there. Crisp. Time-stamped. Her half-naked body tangled in our sheets, well, not ours. Theirs in some bland hotel room. I zoomed in. He looked happy, relaxed. Like the version of him I hadn't seen in months. I locked my phone. I should have been screaming, crying, breaking things. Instead, I went into the bathroom and brushed my teeth. It's strange how grief doesn't always come crashing in like a wave. Sometimes it trickles, slow, quiet, cold. You just go through the motions, pretending the ground under your feet isn't already crumbling. He walked in behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist like nothing had changed. "Sleep okay?" he asked, kissing my cheek. I smiled into the mirror. "Yeah, you." "Out like a light," he said, and nuzzled into my neck. "Let's make breakfast together." Together? What a goddamn joke. I nodded, I made eggs. I even laughed when he burned the toast. But inside, I was a locked vault. My mind was moving fast, spinning through every lie he'd ever told me, every night he'd come home exhausted. every weird excuse that I had swallowed without question. And now I wasn't just suspicious. I had proof. That changed everything. But I wasn't going to confront him. Not yet. Not when I was finally holding the cards. Because here's the thing no one tells you. When you catch a liar red-handed, the power doesn't come from screaming, I knew it. It comes from sitting across the dinner table, smiling, nodding, asking about their day. While you already know how their story ends, I wanted to see how far he would go, how much more he would lie, how confidently he would look me in the eyes while betraying me, and I needed more evidence. One photo wasn't enough, not for what I was planning, so I started watching. Closely. He wasn't as careful as he thought. That's the thing about arrogance. It makes you lazy. He still left his email logged in on the shared laptop. Still tossed receipts in the trash without shredding them. Still saved hotel confirmations under vague names like work retreat and vendor dinner. By Wednesday, I had tracked 2 separate hotel bookings, both during times he claimed to be working late. The addresses were nowhere near his office. I screenshotted everything. On Thursday, I checked our shared credit card statement online. There it was, lingerie from a boutique I'd never heard of. A dinner for 2 at a restaurant we'd never been to. A gift shop in another city, 2 towns over. He was sloppy, and I was quiet. He didn't notice that I stopped asking where he'd been. Didn't see that I stopped texting to check in, because he thought I was over it. Thought the birthday high had reset things. The truth, I was watching him hang himself with his own rope. Every smile I gave him was measured. Every dinner I cooked was strategic. I wasn't trying to win him back. I was building a case, one I would unleash with surgical precision. At night, when he slept, I stared at the ceiling, not crying. Just thinking, replaying our marriage like a film reel, pausing at every frame where something felt wrong. The unanswered texts, the sudden mood swings, the weekends he had to help his brother move. And in all those memories, I kept finding myself making excuses for him. God, I was tired of excusing him. One night, I found a receipt in his jacket pocket from a boutique hotel downtown. I'd never seen that jacket before. Must have been new. But what really got me was the timestamp. Same day he told me he had a surprise meeting with the VP. I took a photo of it, then carefully slid it back into place. And in that moment, I thought of his mother. Strange, right? But I remembered her voice on the day of our wedding. She took my hand in hers and said, "You're the best thing that's ever happened to him. Don't let him ruin it." I thought it was a blessing back then. Now I realized it was a warning. She knew. She always knew. He came from a line of charming men with slippery morals. His father had cheated 2 multiple times. His parents never divorced. Just slept in different rooms and smiled in family photos. I wasn't going to live like that. I wasn't going to smile for anyone. By the end of the week, I had a folder on my computer labeled for later. Inside. Photos, receipts, email threads, call logs, calendar screenshots. I backed it up to 2 different clouds, sent a copy to my work email, printed the worst ones and locked them in a drawer at the office, just in case. I also changed all the passwords, bank accounts, utilities, my personal savings. Opened a new checking account in my name only. Transferred small amounts, one by one, until half of our joint money was gone. He didn't notice. Of course not. He was too busy working late. One night, I watched him from the window as he walked to his car in a crisp button-up and cologne. He checked his hair in the reflection, then drove off with a smile. And I smiled too. Because I wasn't just a wife anymore. I was the storm. And he had no idea it was already raining. Power doesn't come in the form of shouting. It comes in stillness. In the way you sip coffee while someone lies to your face. In the way you ask, "How was your meeting?" Knowing exactly where they were and who they were with. That was me now. Still. Silent. Sharp. After weeks of watching, documenting, and pretending, I was no longer the desperate wife searching for answers. I was the woman who had them all and was deciding what to do with them. It started small. I tested him, little traps. One evening, as he came home late again, I asked casually, "How was Tom?" His face faltered, just for a split second. "Tom," he repeated. "You said you were with Tom after work, right?" I tilted my head, played dumb, even gave him a little smile. He blinked, then nodded. Yeah, sorry, long day, we grabbed drinks." I let him ramble, let him build the lie taller. Let him stack brick after brick, not knowing I already had the receipts showing him at a boutique hotel 27 miles away. That night, I stared at him while he slept. This man, who once wrote me love letters, who built IKEA furniture with me at 2 a.m., who cried when my father died. Gone. Now there was only this version, hollow, practiced, beautifully packaged and deeply rotten. But I wasn't going to break down, not yet. Because the real explosion was coming, and it would be clean, quiet, devastating. I met up with his mother that weekend. Just coffee. She'd been asking to see me for weeks, but I always made excuses. I wasn't ready before. Now I was. She smiled when she saw me. Her hugs always felt genuine, tight and warm, like she was really holding you. "You look tired, sweetheart," she said, brushing my hair back gently. "Everything okay?" I nodded. "Just work. And 32 isn't as glamorous as they said it'd be." She laughed. "You're still young and glowing. Your husband's lucky." My smile didn't reach my eyes. "Is he?" She paused, her brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" I waved it off. "Oh, nothing. He's just been different lately." Her fingers tightened around her mug. Then she looked up at me. "Men have cycles, phases. Sometimes they retreat. Just don't let it eat you up, okay?" I wanted to scream. Instead, I reached across the table and touched her hand. "Thank you for always being kind to me. I know that's not always the case with mothers-in-law." She blinked, surprised. "You're easy to love, sweetheart." And I believed her. But I also knew I had to be careful, so I didn't say anything else. I didn't show her the photos, not yet. I just wanted to plant the seed, let it grow in her gut, let her wonder, let her start noticing. Because if she was going to be the one I dropped the bomb on, I wanted her to feel the aftershocks. He kept slipping. Another meeting that overlapped with another hotel charge. Another business trip where his phone mysteriously died for hours. He was getting bolder, or maybe just stupid. But I wasn't angry. Not in the way you'd expect. What I felt was clarity. Like I'd been walking through fog for years and suddenly the air was clear and cold and honest. I didn't want him back. I didn't want to fix us. I didn't want to scream or beg or throw things. I just wanted to be done. But not quietly. Because this man, he didn't deserve silence. He deserved to be exposed. And I knew exactly how to do it. I started drafting the email. It was just a Word doc at first, titled Truth. Inside, I began organizing everything. Every screenshot, every receipt, every time-stamped photo. Each one with a caption, labeled. Calm, professional. I didn't want drama, I wanted impact. I even made a short paragraph introducing myself, who I was, what I had found, how long it had been going on. The recipient, his mother. Of course, I could have chosen his coworkers, his friends, his boss, but no one would cut deeper than her, because I knew what he valued more than his job, his reputation, even his image, her approval. She was the only woman whose opinion still made him sit up straighter, speak softer. She was his mirror, his measure. So when she saw what he had become, that would be the beginning of his unraveling. The last thing I needed was a final confirmation, a nail in the coffin. So that Friday night, I followed him. He left the house at 6:47 p.m., said he had dinner with investors. I gave it 5 minutes, then got in my car and followed from a distance. He drove toward the city, not the usual route to his office. Then he parked behind a boutique hotel, one I hadn't seen in the receipts before. He walked inside, and 20 minutes later she showed up, blonde, slim, perfectly manicured, like a magazine version of someone who once admired herself too much. I snapped the photo. Them hugging in the lobby, his hand on her waist, her laugh loud and careless. I didn't follow them inside. I didn't need to. The photo said enough. I drove home. Calm, no shaking hands, no tears, just silence. I printed the photo, taped it to the last page of my document. Then I poured myself a glass of wine, sat in my chair, stared out the window, and whispered to the night, "I'm almost ready." It was a quiet Saturday, the kind of morning that arrives soft and golden, slipping through the blinds without asking. Outside, the world moved slowly. A lawnmower buzzed 2 houses down. Someone's dog barked once, then went silent. The kettle on the stove hissed, and for a moment, it felt like nothing was broken. I woke up alone. He'd already left for his morning run. Right, I didn't even check the tracker app I downloaded last week. I didn't need to. I knew where he'd be, or more accurately, where he wouldn't. Still, I made the bed, poured myself tea, sat at the kitchen table and opened the folder on my laptop titled, Truth. It stared back at me, calm and composed. Inside, a PDF document, 25 pages long, emails, hotel confirmations, credit card statements, screenshots of text messages, photos, God, the photos. One in particular stood out, him kissing her on the cheek in the hotel parking lot, thinking no one was watching. That's the one I printed. I slid it into an envelope, and on the back of it, in small handwriting, wrote, "Ask him where he was on October 14. No signature, no explanation, just the seed of truth, small and sharp. I would leave it with his mother. But first, I wanted to sit with it all, one last time. So I made another cup of tea, opened our wedding album, flipped through it slowly, page by page. We looked so young. He cried during our vows. I had forgotten that. I used to think that meant something, that tears were a guarantee. But now I understood. Some people cry because they're afraid, not because they're honest. There were photos of us dancing, drunk on champagne and future plans. Him spinning me under the lights, me grinning like I had everything I ever wanted. Maybe I did, for a while. Or maybe I just believed I did, and that was enough to carry me through 5 years of slow disappointment. I remembered the night we moved into this house. He carried me over the threshold. Said, "We'll grow old here." Funny how promises like that start sounding like threats in hindsight. I closed the album and slid it back into the drawer. That version of us was gone, and I didn't mourn it as much as I thought I would. Around noon, he came back, sweaty, breathless, and shirtless. He tossed his keys on the counter and kissed me on the forehead. God, I needed that run. I smiled. "Good for you," I said, stirring my tea. He poured himself water and leaned against the counter. "You doing okay?" "MMHMM." He stared at me for a moment, like he couldn't quite figure out what felt different. But then he shrugged and started scrolling on his phone. He didn't notice the envelope sitting in my purse, or the printed itinerary folded neatly in the drawer below. I watched him like I'd watch a movie I already knew the ending to. He was playing his part, delivering lines he didn't realize were outdated. It was almost sad. Almost. That evening, I took a shower, put on the same blouse I wore on our anniversary 2 years ago. He always said it made my eyes look fierce. I didn't want to look fierce. I just wanted to look like someone who still cared, because that was the final illusion. I looked at myself in the mirror. My face was calm, but my eyes carried something new. Resolve. I sat down at my laptop and opened Gmail, drafted the message. To his mother. Subject, thought you should see this. Body, hi. I'm sharing this with you not to cause pain, but because I believe you deserve to know who your son really is before I take the next steps. No name. Attached, the PDF. I scheduled it to send Sunday at 8:00 a.m. I wouldn't be there when it landed. I'd be long gone by then. At 9:37 p.m., we sat on the couch together, watching some crime documentary. He laughed at something, leaned into me, placed his hand on my knee, and I let him. Because this was the last lie I would ever tell. I turned to him and said, "I'm glad we're spending more time together lately." He smiled, squeezed my knee. "Me too, babe, me too." And in that moment, I saw him for exactly what he was. A man who thought he got away with it. A man who couldn't imagine the ground was already cracking beneath his feet. I leaned into his shoulder and whispered in my mind, not aloud, "Sleep well, because tomorrow your world burns." Sunday morning arrived with a hush. The light filtering through the curtains was soft and gray, the kind of light that made everything look cinematic. I woke up at 7:41 a.m. I didn't need an alarm. The email was scheduled for 8:00 a.m. 19 minutes. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my suitcase already packed by the door. One duffel, one laptop bag, one folder in my purse with every legal and financial document I might need. The house was silent, except for his breathing beside me, deep, slow, ignorant. I watched him sleep for a moment. Not because I was going to miss him, but because I wanted to remember this version of him. The one who still thought he was in control, who still believed he could lie his way through life and I'd be there smiling on the other side. At 7:55 a.m., I stood, walked into the kitchen and made coffee, just one cup. No toast, no breakfast. This wasn't a breakfast kind of day. The cup trembled slightly in my hand, not from fear, from adrenaline. It was time. I opened my phone, refreshed my inbox. Nothing yet. 7:59:80. A faint whoosh sound, sent. I closed my eyes and exhaled. At 8:14 a.m., his mother called. I was sitting at the dining table, sipping my coffee, watching a bird outside hop along the patio railing. The ringtone broke the silence. He stirred in bed, then groaned and reached for his phone. I could hear him answer. "Hey, Mom." Pause. Confused silence. "What are you talking about?" Another pause, longer this time. "What email?" His voice climbed an octave. "Mom, slow down. What are you saying?" Then it hit. I heard his feet hit the floor. The sound of the door swinging open. His face, half asleep, pale, panic blooming like a stain down his neck. "Where is it?" he asked, breathless. I tilted my head. "Where, what?" "The email. The one you sent my mom. What the hell is going on?" I stood up calmly, walked past him, and reached into the drawer under the kitchen island. From inside, I pulled the printed folder. Without a word, I handed it to him. He opened the cover, stared, flipped the first few pages, then froze. You've been tracking me." I blinked. "No, I've been watching you." This is insane. You went through my emails." "Just the ones you forgot to log out of." His face twisted, trying to decide between rage and shame. He threw the folder onto the counter. "You've been spying on me like some psycho." I laughed, quiet, dry. "No, I've been surviving." He opened his mouth to say something, but then he saw the envelope on the table, the one with his mother's name written in soft cursive. He picked it up slowly. "Read the back. Ask him where he was on October 14. I watched the blood drain from his face. He knew exactly where he was that day, and so did I. He sat down hard on one of the kitchen chairs, rubbing his hands over his face. Okay, listen, this didn't mean anything." "Stop." He looked up. "I don't want your explanation. I don't want your excuses. I don't want your guilt." He blinked. "Then what do you want?" I walked to the door, picked up my suitcase. "This." He stood. "You're leaving." "I left the moment you decided she was worth the risk." He followed me to the door. "Babe, wait, can we just talk?" I turned to him, hand on the knob. "Talk, like the way you talked to her, or the way you talked to me while lying through your teeth." His eyes were glassy now. "I made a mistake." "No, you made a decision." And so did I. I opened the door. The morning air hit my skin like truth. He stood there, crumbling. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Somewhere you can't follow." And with that, I walked down the steps, across the driveway, and into the waiting cab. From the backseat, I saw him come outside, barefoot, still in his t-shirt. Watching me leave, Not running, not calling, just watching. Good. Let him feel what silence feels like. Let him sit in the ruins of what he built. I didn't need closure. I had the truth. And for the first time in a long, long time, I had peace. The apartment was small, temporary, still smelled like fresh paint and old dust. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and closed it behind me. The sound of it clicking shut echoed louder than I expected. It was the first door I'd closed that didn't belong to him or us, just me. The couch was beige. The kitchen had a microwave that beeped too loud. The bedroom was barely big enough for a full-size bed, but it was mine. I dropped my suitcase, took off my shoes, and just stood there not moving as if I needed to give my body permission to relax. It didn't. Not yet. Because freedom, as it turns out, isn't a light switch. You don't leave someone and suddenly feel whole. You don't walk out the door and instantly breathe deeper. You leave and you feel the silence first. And it's deafening. That first night, I sat on the floor eating takeout straight from the container. The lights were dim. I didn't have curtains yet. The streetlight poured through the windows like the universe was watching. I scrolled through my phone, not looking for his name, but avoiding it. He hadn't texted, not since I left, and I hadn't blocked him yet. Part of me wanted to. The other part wanted him to try, to reach out, to chase, but he didn't. He let the silence grow, so I helped it. Blocked the number, deleted the thread, turned off notifications for any shared apps. I wasn't doing it for revenge. I was doing it because I finally understood what boundaries looked like, and I was learning to protect mine. It's funny the things you forget when you've spent years blending your identity into someone else's. The first week alone, I realized I didn't even know what time I liked to eat dinner. I had always eaten when he came home, always waited, always timed things around him. Now, it was 4:47 p.m., and I was starving. I made pasta, burned the sauce, laughed to myself. No one was there to judge. No one was there to fix it. No one was there at all. On the third night, I had a dream. I was at my childhood home, alone, sitting on the porch steps with a scraped knee. I must have been 8 or 9. It was raining. No one was coming. I woke up to the sound of thunder outside. The dream stuck with me, because it wasn't really about the rain or the scraped knee. It was about that feeling of waiting for someone who never shows and realizing maybe they were never going to. That's what this was. I had spent years waiting for him to become someone he promised to be. And now, finally, I wasn't waiting anymore. But the ache of that still lingered. Day 5, I received a message. It wasn't from him. It was from her, his mother. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. You didn't deserve any of this." I stared at the screen for a long time. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't type anything. Then she sent another. "Whatever happens next, I just want you to know you were the best thing that ever happened to him. And I'm so sorry he ruined that." And just like that, I cried. The way I hadn't let myself cry since I saw the first photo. Not the angry kind. Not the dramatic, scream into a pillow kind. Just slow tears. For everything that had been lost. Not just the marriage, but the belief in it. The years I'd poured into building something real. The sacrifices. The parts of myself I'd tucked away so he could shine brighter. It all came out. And then it passed. And I felt lighter. A week later, I texted someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Her name was Jenny. She used to be my closest friend. We met in college, bonded over bad wine and broken hearts. But when I got married, we drifted. Not because of anything dramatic, just life. And my ex never really liked her, said she was too opinionated. Which, now I realize, was his code for "she sees through me." She replied within 5 minutes. "Holy shit, yes, coffee." We met at our old spot, a cozy little cafe with mismatched chairs and a chalkboard menu. She was already seated when I walked in. She stood, hugged me tight, and didn't let go for a few extra seconds. "You look different," she said, studying my face. "Older." No, clearer. We talked for hours, about everything and nothing. She told me about her promotion, her dog, her disaster of a blind date. I told her about my new place, my new silence, my new self. God, I missed this, she said, sipping her latte. You used to be the most grounded person I knew. I lost her for a while. She nodded, but she's coming back. That night I walked home alone. The streets were quiet. The air was warm but not heavy. A soft breeze played with my hair, and I realized I wasn't thinking about him, not once. Not about what he was doing, or who he was with, or whether he missed me. I was thinking about how I'd decorate the apartment, about trying that new yoga class, about whether I should text Jenny again and make plans for the weekend. I was thinking about my life, my own, unshared, unfiltered, unapologetic, and for the first time in a very, very long time, I wasn't afraid. I was free. It had been 2 weeks, 14 days since I walked out of the house we bought together, since I slammed the door on a life I once begged to keep alive. And I was okay. Not great, not glowing, but functioning. Which, if you've ever rebuilt yourself from the ground up, you know that's a win. I got up every morning at 7:30, made coffee, took walks, checked job boards, cooked actual food. Read the kind of books I used to love before I stopped giving myself time to read. I was learning how to be with myself again. Some days, the silence felt peaceful. Other days, it scraped against my nerves like sandpaper. But I was staying with the hard parts, letting them pass through me instead of running from them. It was a Thursday when I saw him. Not him, his coworker. I was at the grocery store, arms full of apples and almond milk, trying to balance a bag of rice on top when I heard my name. I turned around and there he was, Greg. Mid-40s, round glasses, polite face. They used to carpool to conferences together. He looked surprised. Wow, hey, I didn't know you lived around here now. I smiled stiffly. Yeah, just moved. He glanced at my cart. Doing well. I'm okay, thanks. There was a beat of awkward silence. Then he said, I was really sorry to hear about the separation. I blinked. Separation. He coughed. I mean, he said you two were taking a break. Said you were having a hard time handling his work travel. I just stared at him, like someone had poured cold water over my head. Because even after everything, even after being caught, he was still rewriting the narrative, still painting himself as the man who tried while I crumbled under pressure. Gaslighting doesn't always end when the relationship does. Sometimes it echoes. Greg looked uncomfortable. Anyway, I shouldn't have brought it up, just wishing you the best. I nodded, thanks, and walked away, but inside something was burning. That night I couldn't sleep, so I pulled out a notebook. One I'd bought from the bookstore a week earlier, still wrapped in plastic. I unwrapped it, opened to the first page, and I wrote, here is what actually happened. I wrote for 2 hours. Not to him, not to her, not to the world, just to me. The version of me that had once asked, is it my fault? The one who whispered, maybe I'm too sensitive. The one who accepted less and called it love. I wrote about the birthday, the photos, the hotel receipt, the silence afterward. I wrote about the guilt that wasn't mine. About the courage it took not to scream but to leave. About the kind of heartbreak that doesn't show up in movies, but eats you slowly from the inside. And when I finished 5 pages, I closed the notebook. Breathed, felt something loosen in my chest. This was mine now, not just the pain, the story. The next day I found a bouquet at my door. Lilies, white, fresh, no card, no name. But I knew, of course I knew. He had always sent lilies when he wanted to pretend he was thoughtful, when he forgot anniversaries, when he came home late, when he said something cruel and wanted to press undo. I didn't touch them, just stared for a while. Then I picked up the bouquet, walked downstairs, and placed it beside the dumpster. Because I don't recycle lies anymore. That night, I received another message from his mother. I understand if you never want to speak to me again, but I miss you. I think about you every day. I stared at the screen for a long time, then replied, I miss you too, but I'm moving on. Please take care of yourself. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. That conversation wasn't about closure. It was about boundaries. And boundaries, I was learning, didn't have to be loud to be strong. 3 days later, I was journaling again, and I realized something. The pain no longer felt sharp. It felt like something behind me, still present, but not pressing. I could look at it now, name it, and let it be. The more I wrote, the more I saw the threads of who I used to be weaving themselves back into my life. The me who didn't apologize for her ambition. The me who loved fiercely but never begged to be loved back. The me who didn't twist herself to fit someone else's expectations. I started setting small goals. Finish that book. Call my sister more. Try something new every Sunday. I wasn't trying to become someone else. I was returning to myself. And it felt good, not loud, not cinematic, just right. That evening, I sat by the window as the sun set. The sky was streaked with orange and soft blue. People passed by on the sidewalk below, walking dogs, holding hands, laughing. I didn't feel jealous. I felt curious. Like maybe someday I'd laugh like that again. But it wouldn't be because someone loved me. It would be because I had learned to love myself better. I closed my journal. And for the first time since the day everything fell apart, I thought, not about the man who broke me, but about the woman I was becoming. And for the first time in forever. That was enough. It had been exactly 32 days. I marked it not because I was counting, but because healing has a rhythm. Some days feel like you've moved mountains. Others feel like the mountain moved back. But today felt still, balanced. I woke up early, made oatmeal, and watched the sun rise through the kitchen window. A soft breeze moved the curtain like it was exhaling with me. I was fine, not perfect, not unbreakable, but fine. The envelope came that afternoon. No return address, just my name printed neatly in block letters. I opened it slowly, carefully, like it might explode. Inside, a manila folder, divorce papers, a note clipped to the front. I thought this would be easier than asking. Let me know if you'd rather talk. I sat down, looked at the signature line. He'd already signed. That surprised me. For someone who fought to pretend he still had control, this felt efficient, respectful even, but mostly. It felt like he was finally catching up to where I already was. The next morning, I made an appointment with a lawyer. I didn't want revenge, just fairness. We sat across a polished oak table. She flipped through the documents, nodded, made a few notes. You have leverage here, she said. I raised an eyebrow. You co-own the house, your name S on everything. Joint savings. He moved the other woman into your shared property, correct? I nodded. She smirked. Let's make sure he doesn't forget that. I didn't ask for anything outrageous, just what was fair. What I built with him, I asked for my half. No drama, no threats, no tears, just precision. The lawyer updated the paperwork. We sent it back. 2 days later, his lawyer replied. He agreed. A final meeting was scheduled to sign everything. It was a Tuesday, cloudy, a little warm for October. We met at a neutral office. Conference room, glass walls, beige chairs. He was already there when I walked in. He stood up. Hey. Hi. We sat down across from each other. The legal assistant went over a few last details, then excused herself to give us privacy. The folder sat between us. He tapped his fingers on the table. You look good. I nodded. Thanks. I saw that you blocked me. Yes. He exhaled. I deserved that. I didn't reply. He looked down. I sent the lilies. I don't know if you got them. I did. A pause. They were a mistake. I met his eyes. Yes, they were. He swallowed. I just thought maybe you'd want to talk. I'm here, are I? He nodded, rubbed the back of his neck. You're different now. I'm clearer now. Silence again. Then, can I just say I'm sorry? You can. I mean it. I know. He looked hopeful for a moment, but I added, I just don't need it. He blinked. Why? Because your apology doesn't change anything. It doesn't undo what you chose. And I've already forgiven myself for letting it go on as long as I did. He leaned back. You really are done. I smiled. I've been done. We signed. He slid the pen across to me. I picked it up, wrote my name carefully, each letter steady. When I finished, I closed the folder. He reached for it, then stopped, looked at me. I never thought it would end like this. I stood, slipped my bag over my shoulder. It didn't end today. It ended the moment you chose her. I walked to the door, turned one last time. And for what it's worth, I hope you become a better man, but I'm not the one who'll see it. And with that, I left. 3 months later, I was writing in my journal. The apartment now had curtains, plants, a coffee table I built myself. My job was steady. My smile came easier. I'd even started dating again, slowly, cautiously. But mostly I was dating myself, rediscovering joy, trust, peace. In the final pages of my journal, I wrote, I thought this story was about revenge. It was. It was about remembering who I am and loving her enough to never forget again. I closed the journal, set it on the shelf, and stepped into the next chapter of my life. 6 months. That's how long it had been since I walked out of the house, the marriage, the lie. And it was strange how ordinary everything had become again. Strange in the best way. I lived in a new apartment now, bigger than the last. Lots of light. Hardwood floors that creaked when I danced barefoot at night. Curtains I chose myself, bright yellow with white stripes, loud and unapologetically cheerful. The kitchen walls were lined with spice jars. The fridge had notes stuck with magnets, my grocery lists, little affirmations, even one from Jenny. You are a goddamn phoenix. Burn pretty. I'd started cooking again, not just surviving, not just defrosting, creating. My playlists were full of old soul and new indie. My closet was full of clothes that actually felt like me. My journal, still growing, page by page. But the real change, I laughed more now, laughed out loud, snorted even. Sometimes alone, and I didn't miss him, not even a little. It was a Friday night when I hosted my first real dinner in years. 6 friends, homemade lasagna, string lights on the balcony. Jenny brought wine. Mia brought her new boyfriend. Diego brought dessert and broke 2 glasses within 20 minutes. It was loud and warm and messy. And me, there was no perfect table setting, no nervous hovering to make sure everything looked like a Pinterest photo. Just good people, full hearts, honest conversation. At some point, Jenny raised her glass. To her, she said. To the woman who finally stopped watering dead plants and built herself a goddamn garden. Everyone laughed. I laughed. But inside, I got quiet. Because that toast, that wasn't just a compliment, it was true. Later that night, after the dishes were mostly washed and the music had softened, we sat around the living room with candles and blankets. Mia leaned her head on her boyfriend's shoulder. Jenny curled up on the floor with her socks mismatched. And then it came, the inevitable question. So, are you seeing anyone? I smiled, took a sip of tea, and said no, but I'm not lonely. That answer surprised even me because it wasn't a performance. It wasn't pretending, it was real. I wasn't waiting. I wasn't aching. I was living. After that, Diego, quiet, gentle Diego, looked up and said, How did you survive it? I mean the betrayal. Everyone stilled. It was the first time someone asked it out loud. The real question beneath all the polite ones. I didn't rush to answer. I sat with it. Let it settle. Then I said, I stopped asking why he did it, and started asking why I stayed as long as I did. Jenny looked down. Mia exhaled slowly. I let myself be small for him, I continued. I confused compromise with disappearing, and the worst part, I was so used to it, I called it love. Silence. But when I finally left, I didn't feel brave. I felt broken. Still, I walked anyway, and every day since has been about choosing myself, not loudly, not perfectly, just consistently. Diego nodded. That's badass, he whispered. We all laughed again. and it felt light this time, not as defense, but as release. Later, when the last friend left and I closed the door behind them, the apartment felt still in the best way. Warm, whole, I walked to the balcony with my tea. The city hummed below, soft and rhythmic. The breeze was cool. My hair danced gently across my cheeks. I thought for a second about him, not with anger, not with regret, just neutrality. Like a chapter I once read and no longer needed to revisit. I thought about the birthday, the photo, the silence, the suitcase, but none of it felt sharp now. None of it echoed. It was just a path I walked through to get here. And here was beautiful. I sat in my balcony chair, pulled my knees to my chest, sipped my tea. There was no one coming home to me, no one to report to, no one to clean up for. And still, I felt more full than I ever had in that house, in that marriage, in that illusion. I wasn't waiting for love. I was living it. In the way I protected my peace. In the way I laughed without permission. In the way I honored the quiet. And in the way I showed up for myself every single day. 1 year, 12 months, 365 days since the birthday I thought would destroy me. The day I blew out the candles with a lie sitting right across the table. The day I smiled into a phone camera while he held her in secret. The day everything broke. And somehow, the day everything began. This year, I didn't make a big deal out of it. I didn't throw a party. I didn't book a trip. I didn't cry. I just lived. I woke up in my apartment, made coffee with oat milk, fed my plants, opened the windows wide and let the breeze in. I didn't check social media. I didn't scroll back through old memories. I didn't wonder where he was, what he was doing, or who he might be doing it with. Because none of that had anything to do with me anymore. At 10:17 a.m., I walked to my favorite cafe. The barista remembered my name. The table by the window was empty. I ordered my usual, sat down, opened my laptop, not to check emails, to write. Because somewhere along the way, I stopped writing just to survive and started writing to tell the truth. My truth. Not the edited one I used to present to keep the peace. The whole, messy, glorious truth. Around noon, I walked through the park. Golden leaves scattered the path. Kids laughed in the distance. A dog with one floppy ear chased its own tail. I felt warm, alive, not because I was in love, not because I had closure, but because I had me, and that was more than enough. Later, I met someone kind, someone honest, someone who didn't flinch at my story, who didn't try to fix me, who didn't compete with my past. We weren't perfect. We didn't need to be. What we had was built from realness, not roles. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was auditioning to be loved. I was just being me, and that was finally enough. That evening, I went back to a place I hadn't seen since the divorce. The old neighborhood, the street we used to live on, the house where everything cracked. I parked across from it, engine still running. There it was, still beige, still trimmed with fake plants, still pretending to be something it was. I sat there for a few minutes, not crying, not shaking, just sitting. I thought it might hurt. But it didn't. It felt like watching an old movie, one I'd already seen, one I'd outgrown. I didn't feel angry. I felt whole. I pulled away without looking back. That night, I wrote the final page in the journal I started 6 months ago. Love is not sacrifice. Love is not performance. Love is not earned by shrinking. Love is not kept by silence. Love is not made of fear. Love is not what he gave me. I took a breath, then I wrote, love is this quiet, this peace, this life, this me. I closed the journal, set it on the shelf, turned off the lights, stepped onto the balcony. The moon hung low and soft. The city pulsed with gentle life below. I wrapped a blanket around my shoulders, took a sip of wine, and smiled because I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for an apology, not for validation, not for someone to tell me I mattered. I already knew I mattered. I mattered when I walked away. I mattered when I cried alone. I mattered when I stood in front of a lawyer and signed my name. And I matter now, in this moment, in this light, in this quiet, beautiful, brave life I built. Without him,